Imagine a couple, John and Sarah, at the end of their day. As John is getting ready for bed in a calm and organized manner, Sarah starts to complain about her work and how she's not getting enough support from John. John, feeling frustrated, starts to criticize her for not being more organized. Despite Sarah's attempts to express her feelings, the conversation escalates into a heated argument. The scenario illustrates a common pattern in many relationships where conflicts and misunderstandings can arise despite the best intentions of both partners. But there is a way to tell if the other person is likely to cause conflict or connection with you, and that is through so-called transactions and ego states. Let me explain. The theory of transactional analysis is based on the idea that all human communication is made of transactions, both verbal, such as spoken words, or non-verbal, such as facial expressions or gestures. Developed by Eric Berne in the 1950s, it is a therapeutic model used to gain insight into one's psychological state during communication. In this study on marital stability, relationship expert John Gottman describes how he can predict relationship success or failure with an 87% accuracy based on observing such transactions. He found that one negative transaction can only be outweighed with at least 5 positive transactions. The better we understand how we interact in a specific setting, the more successful the relationship will become. The key to healthy relationships is understanding and respecting the different ego states that drive our behavior. We all have 3 ego states out of which we communicate: the parent, the adult, and the child. In the beginning, John is in the adult ego state. This state is the logical, rational, and objective part of ourselves that can analyze and process information. When in the adult ego state, we are able to think critically and make decisions based on facts and logic. The adult ego state is the ideal state to be in when solving problems or making decisions. Sarah, however, is in the child ego state. This is the one that holds our feelings, needs, and wants. When in the child ego state, we may find ourselves acting impulsively, emotionally, and defensively. We may also be more likely to give in to our desires and to engage in activities that we enjoy. The child ego state is further divided into the natural child, the adapted child, and the rebellious child. The natural child is the part of the self that expresses our innate wants, needs, and desires. It is the source of creativity, playfulness, and spontaneity. The adapted child is the part of the self that has learned to conform to the expectations and rules of others, such as parents, authority figures, and society. It is most likely to be affected by feelings of guilt and shame. The rebellious child resists the expectations and rules of others. It is the part of the self that rebels against authority and norms and is most likely to be affected by feelings of anger and frustration. When confronted with Sarah's complaints, John switches into the parent ego state and criticizes her. This is the one that governs our thoughts, feelings, and behavior based on what we learned from our own parents and authority figures. It is responsible for the shoulds and shouldn'ts that we internalize and that influence our behavior. When in the parent ego state, we may find ourselves judging, criticizing, or giving advice, similar to the way our parents did. We may also adopt the same attitudes and beliefs that our parents had. The parent ego state is divided into 2 subcategories: the nurturing parent and the controlling parent. The nurturing parent ego state is caring, supportive, and protective. It wants to take care of others and make them happy, and it contains positive attitudes and behaviors learned from our parents, such as love, compassion, and empathy. The controlling parent ego state is critical, judgmental, and manipulative. It is the part that wants to force and direct others, and that can be harsh and demanding. It contains negative attitudes and behaviors learned from our parents, such as criticism, judgment, and manipulation. These 3 ego states are constantly interacting and influencing each other. Sometimes they are referred to as our shadow, which means our hidden, subconscious patterns of thoughts and emotions. In a healthy relationship, both partners should be able to switch between these ego states in a way that is appropriate to the situation. A good combination is the nurturing parent and the natural child. That is because the nurturing parent provides guidance and support, while the natural child is open and receptive to learning and growth. The combination destined for conflict is the critical parent and the rebellious child. That's because the critical parent is overly controlling and critical, while the rebellious child is resistant to authority. It becomes clear that it is not you as the individual who can create conflict or connection by choosing your state. When it comes to conflicts, you can consciously pull out by choosing the adult ego state. It is generally considered that it works best with other adult ego states and that it is the most effective and healthy way of solving conflicts. But we are not always rational. In fact, we all have a dominant, non-adult ego state into which we seem to automatically fall with the slightest emotional irritation. So this is what you should look for in a partner. Do your dominant ego states match? For example, if your dominant ego state is adapted child, you're likely to feel connected to the nurturing parent ego state, as it is encouraging, supportive, and provides guidance which the adapted child craves for. The rebellious child is also an option, as it can demonstrate how to stand up for yourself. You should distance yourself from the critical parent ego state, as they might exploit you. As another example, if your dominant ego state is rebellious child, you are most likely to connect to somebody who shows empathy and understanding, like the adapted child. Also, the nurturing parent will be able to soften your hard shell and help to regulate your emotions. Now, you might have an idea which is your dominant ego state, but discovering it can be a lifelong journey, sometimes called shadow work. I have created this guide to bring your shadow into the light. It explains how to confront your shadow, and there is also a powerful self-discovery exercise waiting for you.